Thank you so much. First of all, before starting, I would like to say that for those of you who are attending here today now to this talk, you will get an extra participation, an extra entry for the draw, for the raffle we're going to celebrate just after this talk. So good luck. And now, let's go for it. Well, I'm pretty sure that most of you have met in the last 2 days lots of great and smart people in here. However, there's someone else I would like you to meet. Let me introduce you my favorite French scribe of the mid-15th century. His name is Jean Milot. Say hi, John. Well, he looks kind of busy, right? Anyways, John told me once which was the worst possible nightmare for scribes at that time, which was losing your job due to Gutenberg's letterpress printing invention, a much faster and cheaper way to make copies of books and manuscripts. And this wasn't an overnight change. However, these people had to learn new skills to remain competitive, or basically to look for another job. And this was 300 years before the first industrial revolution. Now, it's 2024. We have just started the fifth industrial revolution, so I decided to invite John to Malaga to let him experience himself how different life is these days, especially in the software industry, where AI is becoming a game changer. In fact, the World Economic Forum revealed last year that around 85% of the companies around the world have plans to start introducing AI in the coming years. A few days ago, I asked John, "Are you still having nightmares, my friend?" And he said, "Yes, I do." "Okay, tell me, what is it?" Getting asked this question during one job interview. Tell me something that you can do that ChatGPT cannot. And it might look funny, but if you truly think about it, AI, for instance, can write code, help you to analyze data, write presentations like this. Hold on. That's basically what I do for a living. So should I be really scared as a data analyst? My job as a data analyst is basically to answer business questions to help in the decision-making process. That's more or less what I do. Traditionally, there are a certain number of skills that you need to master in this role to be successful. First of all, you need to have almost a perfect understanding of the business domain knowledge to help in the decision-making. Second, you need to know how to fetch data from different sources, SQL databases, APIs, MongoDB, and so on. Then, when you got the data that you need, data isn't always ready, isn't always clean and prepared for the analysis. You need to know how to use analytical tools and know how to write code to make the data be ready for you. Also, there's something else important here, that, okay, you got it, but now you need to have also analytical and mathematical skills to get insights from raw data. This is also required. And also, presentations and communications skills, essential to convey your results and findings to both stakeholders, technical and not technical. And if you reunite all these requirements, congratulations, you can call yourself a traditional data analyst or data analyst 1.0. Many theories believe the idea that the melting clocks from this Salvador Dalí painting called as the persistence of memory represent the idea that time passes differently for each person. And in fact, if you think about it, especially when you're doing boring, repetitive, and not very exciting tasks, you feel and you have the feeling that time passes slower, right? Many data analysts will agree with me on this. Moving from raw data to business value has some intermediate steps which are very time-consuming, not very exciting, and sometimes, again, boring. The most typical path is to start first with the data extraction, building the queries that you need to fetch the data from your data source. Second, the cleaning, identifying, rectifying, and removing data inconsistencies, errors, duplicated values, or missing values, filling the gaps, essentially, as well. Also, the preparation. For here, you need to apply transformations to your data in order to be ready for the analysis, for the actual analysis. For this, you got to make transformations and formatting changes in your data. The analysis itself, that's what you have to do in order to basically build the visualizations, the visuals, and also try to identify patterns that you will communicate later in the results to the stakeholders. That's usually the easy part, right? If we apply the famous 80-20 Pareto distribution to this workflow, we could end up saying that to get the data ready for the actual analysis, that's usually what it takes us around the 80% of the total effort, while for the last mile, that 20% of the effort, that's usually what generates the most of the results, the actual 80%, which is basically the visualizations and what you're going to convey to your stakeholders. However, personally, I don't think this is always true, especially if it's not the first time that you're working with data. That might apply only for that case. So how can we speed things up a little bit? Now, thanks to AI analytics, we can have the answers to those business questions really quickly, really straightforward, just asking our data using natural language. And that's it, literally. That's how easy it is. Data analytics can do all the boring stuff and also the analytical stuff for us in just a matter of seconds. So our jobs now are going to become something different. Our jobs now are going to be basically to review the results of those questions that the models we will be using will provide us. And it's not going to be anymore about writing code. We might not get perfect answers or results, but it might help us to get 70% of the way there. Well, how can we do this? Then we will start formulating the questions that we need. For instance, here, asking a question to the plain data. We will have to provide some additional context to the models I will mention now. Basically, providing some extra information from the database, such as DDLs, documentation, predefined SQL queries, etc. Those two elements together will become the input of our pre-trained AI models. In this case, in particular, large language models. These kind of models will provide us with with several sets of commands to actually get all this work done for us. And even with some follow-up questions to get new insights. We are transitioning into a reality in which spending hours and hours and hours writing code is not going to be necessary anymore. That's how future is going to look like for all of us. And when are things for at work? Not for today, not for tomorrow, but for yesterday. Time in business is money. So the less time it takes us to do something, the more work can get done, basically. We cannot do as Leonardo da Vinci did. If you don't know, he took 16 years to finish his most famous painting, the Mona Lisa. So how can we start applying and start using AI models in our day-to-day basis? Here I'm going to propose several different solutions for this. We can use analytical software, basically a computer program with AI features that we can run on cloud or basically to deploy in the company servers as well to have full control over the data and in the infrastructure as well. Online solutions, maybe not perfect because you can access them through the bonesware and might not be completely secure, depends on the case. And my favorite one, which will be having your own Python environment with, for example, a Jupyter notebook, an open source solution for both writing and executing code in Python with combination of Pandas AI. Just an example, to connect to our database and then start using models. There are different kinds of models, of LLM models. In this case, all those models need to be running somewhere. They need a computer to be run. And for this, you got several options. You can make use of commercial LLMs, commercial LLM solutions. They are pretty famous, pretty robust, with excellent performance sometimes. They also provide customer support in case you need it. However, that's important to know, licenses is required, you have to pay to make use of this. Another option is to go for the open source solutions, LLM models, such as Llama 2, which depending on the use case might not be even an open source, or private GPT. But for this, you need a GPU, not maybe as expensive, but one just to run these models. For example, using Llama or LM Studio. You can find other alternative solutions in the Hugging Face community. Okay, we now get back to the original question, which was, will AI replace me at work? Relax, take it easy, because the answer is no. But someone who knows how to use it might will. And I know this sounds very exciting, very promising, but there are certain aspects that you need to take into account. Some caveats. First, the bias. Models can start to introduce bias, for example, when filtering data. You might think, okay, I'm going to filter my data, and the model that I'm using is suggesting to eliminate rows that might not be wrong. That's one thing. Another one, context. Imagine that your company needs to save some money and decides to fire someone. You will have to ask your LLM model to say, okay, which was the employee which made the worst sales last year? The model will provide you the name of the employee. However, you don't know that that person, the model in this case, will not know that that person was on parental leave, for instance. Will you fully support that decision? Are you sure of it? Another one, data privacy. This is pretty important as well, especially because imagine that you're sending your data to an online platform solution which has AI features underneath, and by doing this, you violate data privacy regulations because you're sending your data out of your country. So that's something to keep in mind. And not only that, the solution you decided to use was free for some reason, and it's because they shared the data with third parties. That's why it was free. So all these problems lead into many reputational damages, loss of revenue, and so on and so on. So what I want you to take from this is that you should learn how to use AI to improve your workflows. Don't be so scared of it, of AI. Learn how to use it to improve your workflows and also to make yourself AI-proof. If you want to remain competitive in this field, embrace AI, but do it with care. Thank you.